Just waiting for people to start hopping in that are in Discord, and then we'll get started. So hello again, everyone. This is class number 4 of our modeling tutorial sessions, hosted by VJ Linden of Linden Lab. So our objective here, if you haven't been following along in the previous sessions, is to kind of teach some pipeline processes, introductions to Maya, the interfaces, the tools, different aspects of modeling. So here in session 4, we're going to continue working on our Overwatch Soldier 76 gun, my personal favorite from the new game by Blizzard Entertainment. I do not claim credit for this concept art. This is a Blizzard model, and we're just kind of recreating it as something to follow along in different aspects of modeling. Now, I think I have everyone in here currently from Discord. If you notice from our last session, there's a few new things in here from what we left off. We left off with just making the high and low of this little back end piece here. Of course, my little cylinders are missing, but I don't know what happened to them. Whatever, I'll find them later. Beside the point, there's some new elements added in here that I kind of worked on in my downtime and prepping for. Okay, this is what we want to do for the next, sessions and stuff. But that's okay. Don't worry. We'll go over everything that's in here through the course of today. Some of the stuff we're going to go through pretty rapidly, as it's kind of reiterating some of the stuff that we went over for this guy. But we'll still point out tools, we'll still point out what it is exactly that we're doing. As we kind of go along through the course of this gun, we're going to keep using the same stuff over and over. And eventually it's going to get hammered into your brain to the point where I don't need to tell you that I'm using a split polygon tool to define an edge loop. But in the meantime, we will just keep progressing forward. So what I'm actually going to start with today is something more towards its front. It's actually this little cylinder dude over here. This is this part is what I want to focus on, at least for the start of it, because I would like to do some cylindrical stuff. We did a more cubic style stuff beforehand, so we're going to go pretty quickly through this piece. I'm going to start out with just a basic cylinder. I'm going to turn my snap off. So I went over in my interface and just clicked create a cylinder. Now, most of the time, you're going to start and make a cylinder and have relatively low polygons in the outer perimeter. Now, for this case, we're starting with the high polygon. We're actually not going to copy this over and make the low polygon from this. We're going to make a shell from this later. We're going to up this thing to a pretty substantial amount of polygons. So I'm going to actually say I'm going to put this about like 80. I'm going to live dangerously and I'll put it at 100. Now, why am I doing this? This is weird. This seems weird. For anyone who makes game assets, just adding a crap ton of edges seems ridiculous. Well, in my high polygon, you'll see there's this little edge detail in here that we're going to actually cut into the object. Now, trying to define edge loops in cylindrical objects is a bit difficult, because when you start defining an edge loop, so like if I press 3 on this thing and I went in to kind of add edges in this particular area, equal distance, you'll notice that when you look at it in non-shaded view, you start getting edge creases. Now, it doesn't show up as much on this because we have a lot of polygons in here, but if you have a lower amount of polygons, the edge loop is going to show more substantially, and we don't want that. We want a smooth surface. So in the case of this, we're going to use an object that's already a bit more rounded out. I'm going to go to my top view, do all my shenaniganry, and move it around so we have something that's an equal measure. I'm going to assign this my red material that I made earlier for scaling purposes. I'm actually going to make it a little bit more opaque for now. And I'm going to drag some of the stuff out so that I have some better lining on it. Let's say I'm going to go to about here. And then I'm just going to grab some faces. I'm going to grab, so I drag selected this edge and then I control selected out the cylinder itself. I'm just going to extrude these outward. Do this. I'm going to shrink it down. Let's say to about there. I'm going to fix that in a second. I'll use my insert edge loop tool. Pull to that edge about there. Pull to that edge about there. I'm going to grab these faces now. And let's go back into perspective. We're just going to pull those outward now. And let's see how far we need to go. Not too far. Actually, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to scale them out myself. And I'm control selecting the axis that I don't want it to scale on. So, pretty minute amount. Okay, and then we actually now created basically, you know, an outer ring to it. It's pretty simple. Like I said, I'm going to go a little quicker for some of the stuff because it's stuff we covered primarily in lesson 3. But you're just going to get kind of a gist of what's going on. So I'm going to extrude this face set out now and then move it out to about here. Shrink it down. Easy enough. I'm going to grab all these faces now. Let's extrude all of those out. Extrude. Easy enough. Now I'm going to grab these faces. Extrude them, but I'm going to inset these, so I'm going to control select. I don't want it on my z-axis, so I'm just going to move it inward to about here because that looks about where we are for this little inset piece right here. I'm going to extrude it outward. And let's move all of this. Let's just shuffle it back a little bit so we're a bit more lined up. Now let's move this line a little bit towards here. And then these faces in particular are a little larger than where I want them. So let's shrink them more closer to our reference point. This looks like it's a little off, so I'm going to just move that. And then fix this little guy right here. I'm going to move him back. I just snap to the point and use my vert snap. Easy. And let's see. Let's move this line a little closer to our reference point right here. Okay. Make sure that I have everything generally lined up. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. So there's a little bit of a curve in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, for the sake of my high polygon detail, I'm just going to define, actually let's give this a material now since we're generally going to just high poly this out really quick. Let's get that brown metal. So give it an edge loop towards the bottom. Let's actually give it a bit more spacing than that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and insert 2 edge loops here. I'm just going to shrink that inward a little bit. That's going to give it just a little bit of an inset. I'm going to grab this outer edge loop here. I'm going to give it a bit more surface detail, so I'm going to go ahead and bevel this outward. So all that was double clicking the edge. Mesh. Where's it? Mesh. Bevel. Yay, bevel. Easy enough. And then I'm going to do the same to this outer edge here so it's not so sharp. Just press G, but you'll notice when we have that one, it's averaging itself out between its two outermost edges. So in this case, we don't want something that's this large. So we're going to go into the parameters in the attribute editor. We're going to click on Polybevel 4, which was the last instruction that we did, so this polybevel, and we're just going to drop down this offset, which you'll notice is going to start shrinking it back up closer to where we would like it. And let's say I added another segment to smooth it out. So we just have kind of a tighter bevel in right there. Pretty easy. So now we've got a bit more of a rounded off shape going on here. Now the next thing I do before I add too many edge loops in here is I'm actually going to change this material. So I'm going to assign it a new material. I'm going to assign it a blend. Let's see, what color do we have here? Get kind of a silver bluish thing going on. I'm going to take this, I'm going to click on this color, I'm going to get the dropper, I'm just going to grab that little shade of blue, grab this specular hit color that it's having, just going to up that a little bit. So I kind of just cloned this color from the reference image. Now again, the point of this is going to come later when we do our ID maps, but these edge loops that we don't want blue, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to reselect. I'm going to select the ring, and I went in and just assigned it back to the brown metal that we had before, but now we have a separated out material. So I'm actually going to do that to this guy over here just as well. This would be our blend 6, which I need to rename. And if you click on the arrow in your attribute editor, you'll find your materials at the end. So I'm going to call this light blue metal. Naming your materials is usually pretty super helpful, but I do it maybe 40% of the time because I'm lazy. Until it comes to ID materials, then I need to usually know where I am. So I'm actually just going to shuffle this up a little bit. We've got a little bit of an indent here, so I'm just going to go not too relevant distance. Let's define an edge here. Let's just define one more right here. Grab the other edge loop tool. Just going to scale up on this a little bit. So now we just have a little partial indent there. Let's grab this one again. That's probably too much of an indent. That's okay. Alright, now we have a bit more of a curve there. But this has a little bit of a line to it, so I'm going to go in and actually just secondary define that one. But we've got another bevel here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that edge. I'm going to bevel that one out too, so we have a little bit more of a curve going on there. It's still a little bit hard edge towards there. You'll notice when you bevel stuff too, sometimes it resorts back to its Lambert material. It's fine, we'll just go in and we'll assign it to light blue metal again. So I'm going to take a look at this when it's in subdivided mode. So I'm going to press 3 just to kind of get an idea of what I'm looking at here. I'm going to go in and start defining some of these edges just a little bit. So we get some harder edge surfaces. So go in and got a hard edge here, so let's go and define those. Got a little bit of a softer edge here, so we won't go as close. And then we've got a harder edge here. And with insets like this, you want to make sure it's nice and close to the edge, so you get a sharp edge there. And just define that one out like that. So now you'll notice we've got a little bit of a cleaner edge group going on here. Now, before we move on to those little micro details, I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to duplicate it right now. And you'll understand why I duplicated it later. And I'm gonna rotate it. Rotate it this way, because you'll notice over here there's some details kind of going on the inside of this face here, which obviously you can't directly tell from that perspective. So we took this over here so we could mock out some of those details really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab these faces from the top angle and then deselect it from the bottom. Oh, I gotta reassign those faces. I'll do that in a second. So I'm going to extrude these inward just skosh. So I have an edge loop there, and then I'm going to do it again. Drag that down. About right there. Yeah, a little bit further. It looks like it's got a little bit of an inlet ring right there. So we're going to move it just inward a little bit. Again, control selecting that axis point. And then we're going to scale it inward, just like this, but we're going to pull that up. We're going to do that again. Pull that up. We'll do it again. And then we'll pull that up. So essentially what we've done here is kind of created a little mini dome. And don't worry about softening those edges right now. It's not too big of a deal. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to select these rings. I'm just going to give it that brown metal just to separate that out. Top selection, deselect bottom, and make sure that's brown as well. Easy enough. The cat is meowing at me. So now you'll see it in 3. That rounds itself off. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to define that bottom edge so that it's not curving like that. And then define the bottom of this ring so it's not curving off as much either. Great. So now we have that marked out. Pretty easy, right? Now, I'm not happy with the size of the opening, so I'm going to grab all of these edge loops edge loops, and I'm just going to scale that out a little bit. And I'm going to drag it down so we don't have such an angle on it. But that's going to warp this angle, and that's fine. We can fix that. All we have to do is delete these extra edge loops, go back into one, and redefine them. That's better. Actually, I'm going to reassign this back to that blue metal. Back to the light blue metal. Two. So we can just, when I select a face, I press F to focus on it, and it pulls me closer to that face. So I'm just going to do that and put the underside of it, just like that. But I'm going to make this inner blue ring in incandescent material. So I'm actually going to assign it a new material. I'm going to go in here to Lambert and just select a light blue, and then I'm just going to up the incandescence of it, so it's actually just essentially a bright color. So I'm going to call this blue light, and then I'm going to assign this inner ring blue light as well, so we have that definition between the two. I'm going to go in and fix these. For whatever reason, these faces glitched out, so we're just going to go in and reassign those back to brown metal. Again, pressing F to focus on it. Select this ring. Press G to repeat that last command, which was assigning it to brown metal. Okay, so now we have that opening. I'm going to rotate that back. Now, I left this other one here for the sake of just being able to easy placement, so I'm going to press Insert on my keyboard, which brings up the center pivot movement system. I'm going to use my snap tool, and I'm going to move this pivot just over to this center right here, and then I press Insert again, and that locks that into place, so that now I can move this this guy right here back onto its other piece just by snapping that point on its other point. And you could theoretically use any point in here. I use the center pivots like these just because they're the largest and easiest to identify. So I'm going to delete the other one. So now I have it back to where I was before. In this case, it's not that big of a deal because it's not connected to anything. It's not very specific right now. But in the future, when you do have a bunch of stuff and everything kind of fits on top of each other, and you want to replicate exactly where that position is, that's an easy method just to change the pivot point and snap it back into place. Wait, is the stream still dead? I'm just noticing people messaging me. I hope not. One second, guys. Make sure that the Discord folk are still... Oh, okay. Apparently there was a little gap that went down. But it looks like we're good. So we're going to continue. Okay. So we've got this back in place with all of our edges currently defined in there. I'm actually not particularly happy with this gap, so I'm going to I'm gonna fix that. I don't know why it bothers me. It does. So I'm gonna delete that. I'm just gonna move this inward, maybe a skosh. I'm just gonna delete this edge vertex. I'm gonna move this guy in. Let's see how that looks comparatively. Let's go in and define the other edge. Yeah, it looks better. I like that better. I don't know why it was bothering me. But I am going to... this actually pulls a lot closer in. And these are all really minute details. But when you're trying to recreate something in any kind of situation, you want to recreate it as best as you can, as close to the image as you can. I'm just going to pull all of that closer in. But I'm still going to leave it just a little bit away from the body. Okay, so we've got this wonderful little front canister doohickey, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. Now we're going to make this indent here. So I'm going to go back into 1. What I'm going to do... Oh, there's an edge loop here. I don't like that. We're going to fix that. I don't know how that got there. Make sure that's the right. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to move this closer here. Let's say we add it about right here. Let's say it's about this thick. Right? That looks accurate. Now we've got a design we got to cut in. I'm going to assume that on the other side of this canister it's relatively the same. So I'm going to treat it like it's essentially a mirrored component. So what I'm going to do is, to save time on dragging things myself, let's focus on it here. I'm going to select all these faces. And I'm just going to select the bottom half of this, and that's fun to do. So the bottom half of these faces, I'm gonna take them out for right now. I still got a few in there, so let's delete those. So we just have the top half of this. Instead of having to drag all of those faces, we're just gonna drag the faces of one side. So we're going back up the top view. Let's move it back up to here, where it belongs. I'm gonna go into this opaque mode. So it looks like we're about here to here. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if that's equal. So there's 1, 2. There's 16 on that side. And there's 17 on that side, so let's select one more. Okay. So I'm going to move these up. Don't worry about this cut angle right here for right now. That's okay. So it looks like we're about right here, right? Okay. Simple enough. And then let's move these guys here. Let's just shuffle them to about right here. Let's grab these little doohickeys. Let's just shuffle them to about right here. Grab these guys. And let's just shuffle them about right there. Okay, so now we have that curve mimicked. Whether or not that's precise to the point, that's whatever, not that big of a deal. Actually, let's make that a little sharper. It's actually, I'm thinking, move those down a little bit. Move these guys down just a little bit, just to widen that. So now I'm going to do, okay, so you have two options here. You can go ahead and select that whole loop. Well, that's easy, and just double click, and you can actually extrude these inward, and then just delete the faces out. Yeah, let's actually go with that method. The other method is to pull the vertices. Let's see, did I undo that all the way enough? Yes, okay. So the other way is to do this. But I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna mirror this over. It's off the negative Z. I'm gonna weld my verts. I'm just going to make sure that it didn't over weld, so I'm going to move that threshold back down to 0.001. That's the lowest it'll go, and that's basically just anything that exists on top of itself, and then you can go in and just shrink that way. Actually, see, I'll just leave it that way. And it's it's a relatively small indent, so it's not, you don't need to go too deep with it, but I'm going to move this inward just a skosh. And then I'm going to grab these edges, and I'm going to bevel these outward just a tiny bit. I don't want to bevel them that much. Let's go all the way back over to the left of my attribute editor. Now we'll move this offset down to about right there. So now, okay, so when we press 3, so we've got some faces that reassign their material. It's okay, we'll just fix that like that. But now we're going to go in and just define the ends of these. So we have an inset now. Pretty easy, right? Yeah, simple, straightforward. And we don't necessarily need to define the edges because they're pretty much where they need to be. But I don't particularly like how smooth that is. So I'm actually going to change that. Bear with me for one sec, folks. I'm just fixing things that I don't like. Oh. Okay. I'm gonna move these a bit closer. So it's just a bit of a sharper edge there, rather than it being so curved. Now the gap itself kind of seems a little large, so that's pretty easy to fix. Let's just grab these edge loops and just move them in just a little bit. Yeah, it seems like it's good enough. There you go. That's ways to add detail onto a cylindrical object. Now, per se, when I was talking earlier about if you had kept this low, let's rotate it here. and we had tried to do this, so let's say we went and grabbed these faces. The problem with it is that we would have to go in and define these corners more because it's going to end up being too rounded. So if I went in and set this, now we're press 3. You'll notice that it curves too much. And then if we had tried to go in and define it to where we wanted a sharper edge, and then we've got creases along the cylinder. Now, that's not necessarily something you can't fix later. If you know how to properly normal paint, it's a pretty easy fix. But for the sake of ease, we just start off with a higher res object, and then we can create a shell around it later, which when we get into the low poly portion of it, we'll touch on that. So let's say, let's make this little outer ring right here really quick. We could probably make it off this object too, actually. So let's go in and define our edge loops. Get out of subdivide mode. Let's extrude that outward. About right here. Yeah, looks good. Before I divide this much further, I'm going to go in. I'm going to assign it my blue metal that I made. Is that blend 4? Blend 5? No. I'll just make a new one then. Assign it name 0. Blend. So we're going to go for this blue right here. So select that. Specular color. Just do this. Blue. I'll just call this blue metal. Let's go ahead and assign these faces to that blue metal. Sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate, and I just go in, reassign it to Lambert, and then assign the material. Okay, cool. Easy enough, right? So I'm going to drag this out so I can see I'm doing a little better. Let's go ahead and bevel these edges out. Let's make it a little bigger. As a general side note, actually, I just thought about this. As I'm progressing along through this, I press Control S a lot. I save a lot because a lot of this stuff will actually freeze your computer. So don't lose progress. Control S. Yeah, that looks like it's about, but let's add some segments in there. You'll notice now I'm just getting a lot of weird material business. Actually, you know what? I don't want to add those edges in there. Okay, I will reassign my blue material again because you don't want to cooperate. Assign. No. No. Oh god, you are the worst, Maya. I really love it when it does stupid crap like this. For no reason. Okay. So we've got that. Let's go ahead and go in and define these edges just a skosh. Press 3 and see what that looks like. Easy enough. Looks like we've got a little bit of an indent here. So let's move this back up. Let's move it here. So we're about to right to this face. Let's define our multiple edge loops. Get an even spacing in here. We'll just scale those out. It looks about right there. And about right here. We're just gonna extrude this inward. I don't know why you went on the other way. And not that far. Right there. Okay. I'm going to go in and define this inner edge. Let's go ahead and go out and see what this looks like in 3. Which actually, I think I'm going to leave those outer edges. No. Let's move that and that there. Right, let's multiple edge loop this inner part right here. So now we just have a little slight curve there, which mimics that quite nicely. Boom. Inset. Easy enough, right? So now we've made our little canister. I think that was pretty easy and straightforward as far as pieces go. Now I know we're touching along on the same issue stuff, and that's okay. Like I said, we're gonna hammer this crap in over and over and over, because why not, right? Eventually it'll stick. Now, if we're gonna, we've got like 15 minutes, so let's go over like one little other part here. Let's just replicate what's going on here. So I made this piece, and I'm going to turn my snapping. But I will actually, I'll start this one from relative scratch. Where'd you go? There you are. Let's go ahead and assign it that transparent red. Let's move it closer to the proximity where we would like it. Let's go ahead and move these edges inward. Move these guys down to here. Go ahead and insert our edge loops. Let's go relative distance. Here, we'll go here. Go ahead and move this edge in. Go ahead and move this vertex in. And let's go ahead and we'll shrink this whole thing in. So we'll just extrude this about right there. Yeah, why not? Oh, that's right. I actually should just shrink it just a little bit more. About right there. Let's get rid of these faces. snap that to that edge. Okay. I'm going to use my pieces of reference point, but this is something you'll adjust, like the heights of these objects in different ways depending on the later portions of your gun, and that's okay. It'll change depending on your final scale, so I just want to move those interfaces in. I'm actually just going to grab all of my edges except for these guys. I'm just going to extrude those down. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm kind of looking continually at my other perspectives. So you'll notice I have all of those still up. So when you're looking at this, you can see it has that slant edge and then the straight down aspect. Pretty easy, right? So let's go in. Let's get this little inset area right here. Move this into here. So we're missing that edge here, so let's go ahead and give that another edge there. Let's snap that dude in just like that. So now we've got a little inset area. I'm going to go ahead and grab these three faces. And I'm going to extrude those inward. Again, let's get rid of these extra faces that we don't need for that end. And snap those back to that end. I'm just going to go ahead and move these down. And notice this isn't exactly on par with my original. That's okay. I'm going to move these guys up though. So that they're more in line there. Move these a bit closer to that edge. Let's move these a little closer to that edge. Snap these guys over. Now, so we've got this shape generally marked out. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab these outer edges and I'm going to move them down. I'm going to press scale, and I'm actually just going to scale them on this vertical axis. In my case it's the Z, so that I flatten them out entirely, and then I'm going to move that down. This again, remember we're keeping our quads alive, and then I'm going to actually merge these merts first, and then I'm going to push out this little area. So we have this extension out here. Let's get rid of these bottom faces because we don't need them. So we've got this little piece going on. I'm going to go ahead and assign it. Let's actually hide this guy. Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep him as a reference point here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign this guy my white metal. Ooh, actually, is that corner still off? No, that's good. Yeah, maybe with it. Actually, but I'm going to drag this down just a little bit to even that edge out. Perfect. Okay, So we've got our shape blocked out. Now I'm gonna control duplicate this, and I'm gonna put it in my low polygon selection for the sake of ease later on, because like we pointed out, we're gonna have a high polygon shell, so having that there, it's helpful. And you notice for my piece up above here, I had some poly beveled edges that kind of gave it a little bit of a round off there. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to poly bevel that out. I'm going to move that inward a little bit. And you notice when I did that, I selected that inner edge too, and that actually kept my edge loop relatively still quad. But the main problem is that there's still a triangle in there. That's not necessarily going to kill us. That's okay. Now I changed the geometry in that a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and add this piece, Control D it, and add it back into my low polygon. This is pretty much just a junkyard at the current moment for stuff that I've created. Now we have this, right? Now let's go in and talk about its high polygon state. Let's go ahead and add an edge loop here. Okay, so let's insert edge loop tool, our split polygon tool. Let's move this down so that that terminates as a quad right there. And triangle's gonna mess things up, but whatever. We'll figure that out. Just go ahead and define some of these edge loops. All the way around there. All the way around there. And all the way around there. Let's get this sharpened. If I remember correctly, this corner has a bevel. So we're actually gonna bevel him out. Let's see how much that screws up my geometry. Actually, let's just add an edge loop here. Let's just move these guys inward to about right there. But let's move this guy down so it's a bit more congruent there. Easy enough, right? That way we keep our edge flow going. And we just kind of have a nice little rounded-ish corner here. But let's go ahead and define that corner just a bit. Let's get this defined. And all of this is going to come into play on something we're going to do here in a second in this little corner. Let's get these edge loops. Let's get that edge loop. Let's get these guys. Again, just going around, defining all the areas that I know I need some sharper angles. So we've got one there. Let's hit this. I think we can leave that last bevel. Now let's go ahead and add in right there and in right there. Okay. So generally speaking, we've got that piece together. I don't, however, much like what's happening here. Nah, that's fine. We'll fix that in a second. So you'll notice on this other piece that I have up here, I've got a little indent here. Now, how do you make a circle? Well, let's say I'm going to go in this guy right here, and I'm going to play off using some of the existing geometry that I have. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cylinder. Let's just use a 20-sided one. Let's scale it up to about where we need it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything but its top face. And I'm going to delete that. I'm going to snap this cylinder piece to this top face here. Now, a lot of you probably know what booleans are. We tend to avoid booleans for nice geometry. You can use them. There are tools out there that make better booleans, which, for those who don't know, it's subtracting one object from another, or adding another object, or intersecting another object. It's an easy way to make holes like this into this, but it screws up geometry horribly. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to grab these verts. Easy enough, right? And this gives us a little bit of a mock circle that we've essentially just made. Now when we go to smooth this, we can edit it a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this inward so I get an inset face, just very minutely. Actually, I'm going to do that a second time, but a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to move this down. Let's move it down about right here, and then I'm going to squeeze that inward just a little bit so I get a bit of a curve on the bottom, and then I'm going to inset it again. So now you'll notice we get kind of a discombobulated circle. That's okay. I could add in another edge loop, but let's see if we can move these faces around just a little bit to get the circle. And I'm moving this around in the subdivision mode, which gives me an idea when I smooth this out, what will it look like. So I'm pulling all these verts around. And you're going to have to go back in and pull some of the other ones that you've moved back inward and play around with it. I'm just going to keep shuffling these until I've got my circle that I like. This down just a little bit. Let's move this back inward. And let's move that one outward just a tiny bit. So now you have a nice even little circle shape. Is there an easier way to do this? Probably. This is how I know how to do it. I'm an amateur. Don't judge me. So now when we go to delete this guy, we got a little punch hole. I'm going to assign this ring my black metal. Just assign this inner ring that black metal too. And boom. You have a tiny little hole. And we worked off of the current geometry for the most part, except for that double split we added in there, which allowed us to keep the outer edges. I just popped up in Discord for a second. Squish, it might be my AC. I mean, I'm using a mic. I'd have to go back and listen to hear what it sounds like. Could be my AC. I'll shut down my AC for future streams. If you can hear it in the background. I wouldn't think you would. I would have thought it would have been quieter than that. That's okay. I will make sure that's a thing. So I wasn't particularly happy with this, but maybe we can round it off just a bit more. Going in and editing these guys up a little bit so we get a bit more curve in with this. Oh, the sharp angle of it was kind of bothering me. Yeah, that feels much better. There you have it. There's that piece in a nutshell. Like I said, as things progress, we're gonna go quicker and quicker, so that we actually get through majority of this. So I challenge you guys, if you're out there making these things, maybe try this little guy out. This is actually mirrored, so let's just delete that for the sake of conversation right now. So I actually just made this top piece and I mirrored it down. So I challenge you, try and just make this this shape work off of your reference image here, or try making this little doohickey here for the top of this piece. Actually, let's how do I see that? Let's drag out that edge just a little bit more. Okay, cool. Easy. Try it out. See if you can't mock up any of these shapes by yourself. So as you're progressing through these lessons, hopefully you'll be able to start picking up how to do things without me telling you insert edge loop tool, extrude, subdivide, delete edge vertex, stuff like that. So next week, or the week after, it may even be next week, I don't know. We'll start tackling some of the main hulls of the gun, some of these other pieces pretty quickly and easily. But for now, that's the end of today's stream. Thank you guys for listening. Please address any questions to Vitae Linden or vitae@lindenlab.com. It's my email address. Find me in Slack, Discord, however you want to talk to me, that's fine. Again, I'm going to continue progressing on this gun a little bit over the course of the next week, so I actually have most of it staged out, and then we'll keep going over some of the pieces until we get to the end of the high polygon, and then we'll start working on the low polygon practices for how to break this thing down. and then moving forward from there. So keep an eye out for the emails. But that's it for today, folks. Thanks for listening.